Godzilla, the king of the monsters. Almost everyone alive has at least heard of him. Despite how many people know him, not everyone knows all of his versions or just how strong and weak the different iterations are. So I made a list ranking all 17 versions that I see fit. These are all the versions from movies, official cartoons and animes, as well as official animations. Also, I am not including amps, an amp being a power-up that a version of Godzilla gets from a third party, like another kaiju or absorbing tons of radiation for a temporary boost in his stats. At the end of the day, some of this is fact, but most of it is my opinion, and you guys can debate in the comments, but try to keep it respectful. Sorry, Heisei Glazers and Power Scalers, Heisei Godzilla isn't at number 1. Before I rank all of them, I'll go through all the versions that I have added to my ranking list. All of these versions include Godzilla 1954, Showa Godzilla, Millennium Godzilla, Kiryu Godzilla, GMK Godzilla, Godzilla Final Wars, Heisei Godzilla, Legendary Godzilla, Evolved Godzilla, Godzilla Minus One, Shin Godzilla, Gemstone Godzilla, Zilla, Zilla Jr., Hanna-Barbera Godzilla, Godzilla Ultima, and last but by no means least, Godzilla Earth. Starting my list in last place at 17, I think it's kind of obvious this is where Zilla is going. I know the fans don't consider Zilla an actual Godzilla, but I added Zilla Jr. to the list because Zilla Jr. is actually way more powerful than people give him credit for, and it just doesn't feel right to exclude the father of Zilla Jr. Plus, it still feels like I should add Zilla regardless since it was the first quote-unquote Godzilla movie I saw as a kid, and the movie holds a special place in my heart. But standing at about 60 meters in height and weighing 500 tons, he is obviously the weakest version of Godzilla, considering he's one of the smallest versions, isn't all that physically strong, and died to a couple of fighter jet missiles. Just barely above Zilla, in 16th, I put Hanna-Barbera Godzilla. Hanna-Barbera is weak, dumb, not tough, and is essentially paper weighing in at only 6,000 tons despite his 100-meter height. Brill literally threw a torpedo away from him, which blew up after it wasn't even touching him anymore, and that alone pushed his durability to its limit and knocked him out for several minutes. Sure, he fights a lot of monsters, but all of those ones are really not that strong, and he doesn't even kill most of them. Instead, he just chases them off or traps them. He does have some cool abilities, I guess. Like, he can shoot lasers from his eyes and can breathe fire, but for some reason the fire seems to be way more powerful than his laser eyes, and from watching the entire cartoon, all of his feats that he's accomplished with his fire are things that can be done by literally normal orange flames in real life. So, it's safe to say it just has that much power behind it. There was one time he tanked multiple tanks shooting at him, but it just so happens that that one time his durability was actually somewhat decent compared to everything we had seen prior. There was also a nuclear power plant nearby, which was, at the moment, going through a meltdown and leaking tons of radiation. And since he has energy absorption, it's safe to say that his durability was probably buffed from the radiation. Overall, Hanna-Barbera is just fodder, and for the love of baby Godzilla, do not watch this cartoon. You will go insane from the stupidity and zero effort that was put into it. At 15, we have the one who started it all, the OG, the one who horrified audiences and sent a general message to never use nuclear warfare again. Godzilla 1954. Weighing in at 20,000 metric tons and standing at 50 meters in height. He is slow and short, but he was able to take fire from tanks and receive zero damage whatsoever. He can also release a nuclear mist from his mouth that is capable of melting power lines and tanks. Unfortunately, he never fought any other monsters, so there isn't really much more I can give him in terms of feats other than surviving the oxygen destroyer for several seconds. Although he is much more powerful than our last two versions, all the other versions only get stronger from here. A god incarnate. Having one of the coolest atomic breaths in the entire franchise, as well as a really horrific appearance, we have Shin Godzilla at number 14. He's one of my favorite versions of the Big G. Shin stands at 118.5 meters in height when he isn't hunched over and weighs a solid 92,000 metric tons. He is capable of evolving and mutating quickly to better survive whatever situation he is in, and can regenerate completely from a single cell of his body. When I first learned about Shin Godzilla, I thought he was really powerful. But then after the director stated that the tanks shooting at his legs were hurting him and that a nuke would have killed him in every cell in his body, I realized that all he has going for him is his arsenal. If a nuke would kill him, he is relatively weak, considering some versions of the character literally just eat nukes like they're a piece of pepperoni pizza. Sure, the OG Godzilla wasn't even harmed by tanks, but Shin Godzilla's arsenal just manages to bump him up above the OG. I'm not going to include his evolution and his strength because that would take a lot of time to make him evolve to be stronger than the versions above him, and I'm basing this off of his fourth form that we saw in the movie. Made from all the restless souls of World War II, we have GMK Godzilla. Standing at 60 meters and weighing 30,000 tons, he overall didn't show anything that was super impressive in terms of his power compared to the other versions I put ahead of him. I mean, he kicked through Mountain, but that's kind of it for his strength. His atomic breath did kill most of the monsters he fought, but none of them had any impressive feats that were very powerful. And he's really slow, like most of the versions of the character. He just doesn't have a lot going for him, which is why I put him this low on the list. Number 12 is where I'm putting Godzilla Ultima from the Singular Point anime. He had a really cool looking design and atomic breath, as long as you didn't look at his face from the front, that is. Anyway, he stands at about 100 meters in height, but unfortunately doesn't have a confirmed weight. His atomic breath is not that impressive as it takes several seconds to melt through each individual building. And that same beam which took a while to melt through the buildings very easily melted a huge hole in Jet Jaguar's face, who in melee combat he was struggling against slightly. Overall, he is still pretty weak, but due to him being slightly more agile and being superior in size, I put him above Godzilla GMK. I don't want to hear you guys saying, oh, but he's actually a six-dimensional being that is using Godzilla as a pawn, and if he were to come into our universe, it would be destroyed. Like, guys, he didn't do that in the anime, and I'm just using what was shown on screen. If he really had that kind of power and wanted to destroy the Earth, why didn't he just do it? I mean, he might be more powerful than what I think he is, but due to how little screen time he had, it's kind of hard to say he's stronger than this. Godzilla -1, a true horror to be seen, who is one of the most devastating versions of the character. Standing at about 50 meters tall and weighing an estimated 20,000 metric tons, he may not be strong, quick, or durable compared to some versions, but his regeneration really carries him up the list along with his atomic breath, which is just a literal nuke. A lot of the versions that are above him in my list may not permanently kill him, so like I did with Shin, I decided to move -1 up the rank until I didn't think he'd be able to win any fights against who was ahead of him. But he would either eventually wear out and outlast all the versions that I've already shown thanks to his regeneration, or he would get his nuke off and kill them. In a fight against everything ahead of him on the list, I don't see him beating any of them in a hand-to-hand fight, and if he uses atomic breath, it would either 1, wouldn't do anything due to them being able to easily tank a nuke, or 2, they would close the gap way before he could use it due to how long its windup is. This is why I'm putting him at number 11. My number 10 is Showa Godzilla, who, like the OG, stands at exactly 50 meters with a weight of 20,000 metric tons. I don't think he would survive a nuke, to be honest, but what puts him ahead of -1 and all the previous versions is his super high intelligence, speed and agility, and physics-defying abilities, as well as his overall decent melee combat. And because of his speed and agility, as well as being able to do a flying dropkick, -1 wouldn't be able to get an atomic breath shot on him. And due to excelling past -1 in melee combat and having tons of battle experience, this is why I'm putting him in my number 10 spot. Godzilla Final Wars for me goes in 9th. He stands at 100 meters and weighs 55,000 metric tons. He fought a ton of kaijus all in just one movie and beat all but one of them with ease. He also has pretty good durability and decent strength, but is really slow aside from this one jump he did. So, if he fought so many kaijus without resting and beat most of them easily, why is he so far down on my list, you may ask? Well, honestly, all of the kaijus he fought, including the one he struggled against, really are not that strong. He needed to be amped to beat Kaiser Ghidorah after evolving from Monster X, who, in my opinion, is weaker than his previous form. Sure, his Kaiser amp is powerful, but he can't reach that on his own and needs a third party to get that power, so I'm not including it for my ranking. Even if I did, he would only move up like 1 to 2 ranks at most. Still, though, he was really cool, and like every version, I love him a ton. At number 8 on my list, you guys are probably going to flame me for this, but this is where I'm putting Zilla Jr. He is arguably the single most underrated thing in the franchise. Wikizilla says he stands at 55 meters, which is just not true, because Zilla's 60 meters and Zilla Jr. is significantly bigger than his father. One person, when estimating, calculated he was around 300 feet in height, or just over 90 meters, which from watching 75% of their cartoons sounds about right. But what is confirmed is him weighing 60,000 metric tons. Lots of people think he's just Zilla with an atomic breath, which is really not the case. His durability, speed, agility, strength, size, weight, intelligence, abilities, literally everything Zilla has or can do, Zilla Jr. is many times better at it. His atomic breath is powerful, and on top of this, the only version of Godzilla I would say is more intelligent than him is Showa Godzilla, and that's only barely. Zilla Jr. has been able to set traps for his enemies, understand some human language and hand signals, think logically in the middle of combat, and make moral decisions. It is honestly sad that people don't realize just how powerful he is, and he even has some sort of regenerative ability, but it takes many hours to work. And he's constantly fighting kaijus at least once every few days and always manages to come out on top even when they're bigger than he is. I believe that Heisei Godzilla deserves to be put at 7th place. Sorry, Heisei Glazers. Standing at 100 meters and weighing 60,000 metric tons, I was debating whether or not to have Zilla Jr. in this spot instead of Heisei and kept going back and forth, but finally settled with Heisei being just barely too durable and having too much firepower for Zilla Jr. to compete with. But durability and firepower are all that Heisei Godzilla really has. He's really slow, has no agility, and is honestly just really dumb and not intelligent at all. People seriously overrate Heisei Godzilla to the point it's very annoying. Don't talk about how he can survive black holes because he cannot. Everyone says, oh, but he must be so durable because he can survive black holes since his cells survived in a black hole, which, by the way, that was just the theory behind how Space Godzilla was made and isn't true. It's just a theory. And that doesn't mean Heisei Godzilla himself would survive one. This is like saying if your cells can survive being crushed by a hydraulic press, then you can too. So saying Heisei Godzilla can survive a black hole is honestly just ridiculous. And even if he can survive that crushing force, he doesn't have anything insane to defend him against sharp objects. And what do most Godzillas have for melee weaponry? Sharp claws and teeth. And with most versions of Godzilla this high on my list, their atomic breaths would not be able to damage each other in terms of power or heat, so Heisei's breath isn't going to carry him. Stop glazing Heisei Godzilla. It's ridiculous how much people overrate him. I put Millennium Godzilla at 6 on my list. Standing at 55 meters and weighing at 25,000 metric tons, he has a powerful atomic breath and even regeneration, though his regenerative abilities are slow and take a little bit of time to work. He fought Orga, and when using his atomic breath, was literally blasting chunks off of him. He also fought Megagarius, who, as we can see, is extremely fast. Though Godzilla himself is slow aside from occasionally jumping, he has a quick reaction time, being able to keep track of Megagarius when he was fighting him for a good portion of their fight. But what really cares about this list is his durability. Taking an artificial black hole and surviving. But this isn't a real black hole, and you can't make infinite space containing infinite energy with plasma. And the black hole didn't destroy the Earth, so it's obviously nowhere near as powerful as a real one. Still, this feat is really impressive, and I felt he deserves a spot. Down to my top 5. For 5th, I've put Kiryu Saga Godzilla. Kiryu Saga Godzilla is basically the same suit as Millennium Godzilla, and also stands at 55 meters and weighs 25,000 metric tons, but his atomic breath is the normal blue instead of orange. Godzilla fought Kiryu in 2 movies, but in the first movie, Kiryu fired his absolute zero cannon at him while they were both in the water, and even then, this only injured Godzilla. And this is the only time he was seriously hurt. Just like Millennium Godzilla, Kiryu Goji is being carried by its durability. In case you aren't aware, the absolute zero cannon freezes things at absolute zero, which is the coldest temperature anything in the universe can be. These temperatures are negative 459.67 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 273.15 degrees Celsius. When things reach this temperature, literally all the atoms stop moving, meaning they are completely frozen and unable to move. And as you can see, when this attack hit a building, yeah, this is some pretty insane durability. In 4th, I have Legendary Godzilla. He has had several movies and he has gotten way stronger as each film progresses. I will be using his base form from 2024. Standing at 119.8 meters and weighing 99,634 tons, he's one of the biggest versions of the character as an absolute beast. G24 is literally just G21, but way more fit, quick, and agile. He's been able to easily throw around other kaijus that are way above his own weight, has tanked the meteor that killed all the dinosaurs and literally went to take a nap afterwards. He's been nuked in the face with his eyes open and received no damage from the force or heat, and he was able to drill halfway through the planet with his atomic breath. He also has tons of combat experience from fighting tons of kaijus over the literal hundreds of millions of years that he's been alive, and on top of this, he also survived the Oxygen Destroyer, which killed the original 1954 Godzilla. In 3rd on my ranking list, we have Gemstone Godzilla. Standing at 120 meters, Gemstone Godzilla was insanely powerful in his 3D animations. He is strong, has a really powerful atomic breath, and has fought multiple opponents at once. He may not be super quick and agile, but what really puts him up on the list is his insane durability and firepower. Even when being hit by saws and blades, he received no visible damage, and he can even enter a powered-up mode manually for a short period of time. He can shoot atomic beams from his back similarly to Shin Godzilla, and can also use his atomic energy to get a really powerful punch. And if you want a good idea of his durability, just check this out. Yeah, that didn't even scratch him. All the other Godzillas I've mentioned previously, in my opinion, just would not be able to harm him because of his insane durability and would eventually just lose, which is why he deserves 3rd on my ranking. Number 2 is Evolved Godzilla. I know I just did Legendary Godzilla without any amps, but at this time it's unclear if Evolved Godzilla is just an amp that slowly wears off or if this is his new base. If we find out this state is really just a long-lasting amp, then you can go ahead and remove him from the list and bump everything behind him up one rank. But Evolved Godzilla is literally just Monsterverse Godzilla on steroids. He is now faster, his atomic breath is obviously more powerful, and his energy storage capacity is now 20 times greater than it was before. And he can supercharge himself, making his now more powerful atomic breath even more powerful. He was also completely covered by Shimo's ice breath, which is so cold it slows down the atoms of whatever it hits. Sounds a little familiar to a little weapon we know. On top of this, the inside of his mouth was also frozen over, and he still received no damage from it whatsoever, despite the same attack literally crippling Kong. And the director himself stated that Evolved Godzilla can now go thermonuclear on command. I know I said I'm using no amps for this video, but since he can do this on command, his thermonuclear state is no longer an amp. It's an ability that he can do on his own. I was planning on having Gemstone Godzilla in second because I don't think Monsterverse Godzilla could hurt him, but when I found out that he could go thermonuclear on command, that put him above. Despite Gemstone's insane durability to sharp objects and blunt attacks, he doesn't really have any feats against anything regarding high temperatures. If Legendary's thermonuclear state somehow doesn't kill Gemstone Godzilla, it's going to at least severely injure him badly enough that Legendary can finish him off. I don't know how true this is, but I've heard that thermonuclear is supposed to stay to be over 1 trillion degrees in temperature, which is literally just insane. And for number one, I had to put Manila. I'm just joking. Get this ugly piece of garbage out of here. For number one, I think this is a no-brainer. We have Godzilla Earth. The Earth's attempt at driving humanity off of the planet, which he successfully did drive them off for 20,000 years. Godzilla Earth's durability, strength, and overall powers is just so far out of every other version's league. For reference, he's a whopping 300 meters in height and weighs 100,000 metric tons. His atomic powers are insane. He was able to collapse portals created by a literal god, and for an idea of his physical strength, he was able to lift a mountain that was on top of him with absolute ease. I don't remember the exact weight that was calculated for the mountain he lifted, but it was over 1,000,000 tons. 1,000,000 tons! This is many, many times heavier than him and every other version, and he was able to do this with ease. And as for durability, he took the USA's entire nuclear arsenal simultaneously. The power behind this explosion literally defaced the US, and the crater can be seen from space. And what did this do to Godzilla? Literally nothing. He received literally no damage whatsoever. He is without a doubt the most powerful version of the character, by a mile. At the end of the day, this list is my personal opinion. I've spent hundreds of hours debating with people about characters, battles in this franchise, and I've seen all the animes, cartoons, and almost every single movie. Just this list alone, I spent over 12 hours thinking things over, moving things around, and debating with close friends who also know a lot about the franchise. And these more than 12 hours is only for making the list. This isn't how long it took to make the video overall. What I'm saying is I've put hours of thought into this video. Feel free to give your opinions in the comments and feel free to debate as much as you want. I just ask that you stay respectful and be kind to everyone. There is more than enough hatred and rudeness in the world, and I'm sure you guys are amazing people, so please set a good example. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I probably won't be making these kinds of videos very often because they're a ton of work and I don't even get paid anything for this. So take care and have a nice day. Happy birthday, Nauseous.